Welcome to another emotional journey, the long road to redemption. If you enjoy stories about resilience, healing, and the consequences of betrayal, make sure to subscribe, like, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Your engagement helps us bring more stories like this to life. Michael and Jenna had been married for 10 years. On the surface, their life seemed picture-perfect. A suburban home, 2 beautiful children, and careers that supported their dreams. Michael, a patient and understanding man, had always supported Jenna's aspirations, often putting her career above his own. Jenna was charismatic, intelligent, and driven, a combination that had helped her rise quickly in her corporate job. However, her ambition often meant late nights at work and frequent business trips. Michael trusted her without question, convinced that her dedication was for the betterment of their family. One evening, as Michael sat helping their son with homework, Jenna walked through the door, looking unusually tense. Her demeanor seemed off, and her gaze avoided his. "Long day?" Michael asked, sensing something was wrong. "Yeah," she replied curtly, walking past him without another word. Over the next few weeks, Michael noticed more changes. Jenna's phone, once casually left around the house, was now glued to her hand or face down on the counter. Her once vibrant smile seemed forced, and the warmth between them had cooled to a distant civility. The breaking point came on a rainy Friday night. Jenna's work had scheduled another urgent meeting, but a message from a friend changed everything. "Hey Michael, saw Jenna tonight at that new restaurant downtown. Looked like a business dinner, but something felt off." Michael's heart sank. With his mind racing, he decided to investigate. What he uncovered that evening would alter the trajectory of their lives forever. Michael couldn't shake the gnawing suspicion that his friend's casual remark had triggered. That night, he decided to follow Jenna. As her car pulled out of the driveway, Michael kept a safe distance. His heart raced, a mix of dread and determination surging through him. She parked at a cozy restaurant downtown. Through the rain-soaked windows, Michael watched Jenna greet a man with a warm, familiar smile, a smile that hadn't been directed at him in months. They sat close, sharing laughter and conversation that carried an intimacy Michael hadn't seen between them in years. Michael's stomach turned. He snapped a photo with trembling hands, capturing the moment that shattered his trust. But instead of storming in, he decided to wait. He needed clarity, not a scene. When Jenna returned home later that night, she walked in as if nothing had happened. Michael confronted her immediately. "Jenna, where were you tonight?" he asked, his voice steady but firm. "Work meeting," she replied, barely looking at him. "With who?" Michael pressed. "Just colleagues," she said, her tone dismissive. Michael took a deep breath, then placed his phone on the counter, showing her the photo. Jenna's face turned pale as she stared at the image. "I need the truth, Jenna," he said, his voice filled with both hurt and resolve. Tears welled in her eyes, but she said nothing. The silence was deafening, and in that moment, Michael realized the magnitude of her betrayal. "Why?" he finally asked, his voice cracking. "Was our life not enough?" Jenna stammered. "It wasn't about you. I just—" "Save it," Michael interrupted. "You've been lying to me and to yourself. I need time to think, and so do you." With that, Michael walked out of the room, leaving Jenna to sit alone in her guilt and shame. Michael sat in his home office, staring blankly at the photo he had taken of Jenna and the mystery man. His mind raced with questions. Who was this man? How long had this been going on? Why hadn't he noticed sooner? Determined to find answers, Michael delved into their shared life. He went through Jenna's social media accounts, scrolled through old photos, and checked her calendar and messages. Though he hated invading her privacy, he felt justified. Trust had already been broken, and he needed the truth. He found subtle clues, a few unexplained nights out, vague excuses about late meetings, and photos where Jenna appeared distracted even in family settings. It was clear that something had changed months ago, but Michael hadn't wanted to see it. The next day, Michael decided to confront the man in the photo. Using the license plate from the parking lot, he tracked down the stranger, A co-worker from Jenna's firm named Daniel. Michael approached Daniel at a coffee shop near their office. Calm but firm, he introduced himself. "I'm Michael, Jenna's husband. I believe we need to talk." Daniel froze, his expression shifting from surprise to guilt. "I didn't know she was married," he blurted out. Michael raised an eyebrow. "You're telling me that Jenna, who wears her wedding ring daily, never mentioned me?" Daniel hesitated. "She said she was separated, working through things." Michael clenched his fists but held his composure. "Well, that's news to me. Whatever story she's told you, here's the truth. She's been lying to both of us." The confrontation ended with Michael walking away, leaving Daniel to grapple with the reality of his actions. That evening, Michael sat Jenna down again. "I spoke to him," he said simply. Jenna's face turned pale. "Michael, I'm so sorry," she began, but he cut her off. "I don't need your apologies right now," he said, his voice steady. "I need honesty. You owe me that much." As Jenna began to explain her version of events, Michael listened. Each word added another layer of hurt, but he knew he needed the whole picture before deciding their future. Michael sat across from Jenna, the tension between them palpable. He had asked for honesty, and Jenna was finally opening up. Her words came hesitantly, each one feeling like a dagger to his heart. "I never planned for this to happen," Jenna said, her eyes welling up with tears. "It started with harmless conversations. Felt unseen, Michael. And then Daniel paid attention to me in a way I hadn't felt in years." Michael took a deep breath, suppressing the anger that bubbled within him. "So, instead of talking to me, your husband, you found solace in someone else?" Jenna looked down, unable to meet his gaze. "I was wrong. I should have come to you. I betrayed you, and I don't expect forgiveness." The weight of her confession left Michael silent. He had spent years building a life with Jenna, only to watch it unravel in mere moments. As the days passed, Michael confided in his closest friend, Mark, someone he trusted implicitly. "I feel torn," he admitted during one of their long conversations. "Part of me wants to walk away, but another part wonders if there's anything left to salvage." Mark, ever the voice of reason, replied, "It's okay to feel conflicted, Michael. You don't have to make a decision right now. Take the time to figure out what you truly want." Jenna, meanwhile, made efforts to show her remorse. She suggested therapy, both individual and couples counseling. She began leaving heartfelt notes, apologizing for her actions and expressing her desire to make things right. One evening, Michael found himself flipping through an old photo album. The images of their life together, from their wedding to vacations and quiet moments at home, filled him with a bittersweet nostalgia. He couldn't deny the love they once shared, but he also couldn't ignore the betrayal that now tainted those memories. Jenna's voice broke the silence as she entered the room. "Michael," she said softly, "I know I've hurt you deeply, and I'll spend the rest of my life making amends if you let me. But I understand if you can't." Her words hung in the air, and Michael realized he was at a crossroads. The choice before him wasn't just about forgiveness. It was about rediscovering himself and deciding whether their love was worth fighting for. Michael sat in the dimly lit room, his thoughts a whirlwind of confusion and pain. Jenna's confession lingered in his mind, her words replaying over and over. For days, he had avoided making any decisions, caught between the pull of their shared history and the undeniable hurt she had caused. Seeking clarity, Michael accepted Jenna's suggestion to attend therapy. The first session was raw and uncomfortable. "I feel betrayed," Michael admitted, his voice heavy with emotion. "It's not just about what she did. It's about what it says about our relationship." Jenna listened, her face etched with regret. "I don't expect forgiveness overnight," she said, her voice trembling. "But I want to understand how I failed you and how we can rebuild, if that's even possible." Their therapist, a kind but firm mediator, encouraged them to explore their feelings without judgment. "Michael," she asked, "what do you need to feel whole again, regardless of what happens with your marriage?" The question struck him deeply. Michael realized he had spent so much energy trying to understand Jenna's actions that he hadn't considered his own healing. That night, he began journaling his thoughts, pouring out years of unspoken frustrations and dreams that had been overshadowed by routine. As he wrote, a sense of clarity emerged. He didn't just need answers from Jenna. He needed to rediscover himself. Jenna, on the other hand, worked tirelessly to prove her sincerity. She gave Michael space when he needed it but remained consistent in her efforts to show she was serious about change. She attended therapy on her own, delving into the reasons behind her actions and the pain she had caused. One evening, Jenna approached Michael cautiously. "I know I can't undo what I've done," she began. "But I want you to know that I've never been more committed to being better. Not just for you but for myself." Michael studied her carefully. He could see the strain in her face, the weight of her guilt, and her determination. "I appreciate the effort, Jenna," he replied, his tone measured. "But this isn't just about you. It's about me too. I need to figure out what I truly want moving forward." The days turned into weeks, and Michael found himself reconnecting with old hobbies and friends. He began running again, a passion he had long abandoned. He started spending weekends with Mark, who encouraged him to focus on what made him happy. As Jenna continued to show her remorse and willingness to change, Michael couldn't ignore the sincerity of her actions. But trust, he knew, wasn't something that could be rebuilt overnight. Michael sat across from Jenna in their therapist's office. The weeks of introspection, emotional growth, and difficult conversations had brought him to this moment. His heart was heavy, but for the first time in months, his mind felt clear. "I've thought long and hard about this," Michael began, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. "Jenna, I believe in second chances, but trust is the foundation of any relationship. Right now, that foundation isn't there." Jenna's eyes brimmed with tears, but she nodded, understanding the gravity of his words. "I know," she whispered. "And I'll keep working on myself, whether or not we're together." The therapist intervened gently. "Michael, what would rebuilding trust look like for you? And Jenna, are you prepared for the possibility that this might take years, or that it might not work out?" Michael took a deep breath. "I think the answer lies in time," he said. "We need to take a step back, figure out who we are as individuals, and then see if we can rebuild together." The decision to separate temporarily was not an easy one, but both Michael and Jenna recognized its necessity. They agreed to focus on personal growth while maintaining open communication. As Michael packed his belongings to move into a small apartment nearby, he felt a mix of sadness and relief. It wasn't the ending he had envisioned for his marriage, but it was a chance to rediscover himself without the weight of betrayal clouding his every thought. Jenna, on the other hand, committed to continuing therapy and working on the flaws that had led to her poor decisions. She hoped that one day, Michael might see the person she was striving to become. Months passed. Michael found solace in his renewed hobbies, time spent with friends, and the joy of living authentically. He realized that the pain he had endured had also brought him strength and clarity. When Michael and Jenna met again for coffee 6 months later, their conversation was no longer filled with accusations or sorrow. Instead, it was a candid discussion about growth and gratitude. "I don't know what the future holds for us," Michael admitted. "But I do know that I'm in a better place now. And I hope you are too." Jenna smiled, tears shining in her eyes. Thank you for giving me the chance to face my mistakes and learn from them." While the story didn't end with a perfect reconciliation, it was a testament to the power of resilience, honesty, and personal growth. Months had turned into a year since Michael and Jenna had decided to take separate paths to focus on their individual growth. The journey had been anything but easy. Michael had faced the pain of loneliness, the struggle of rebuilding his self-esteem, and the challenge of redefining his identity outside of the marriage. For Jenna, the time apart was an opportunity to confront her demons. Therapy became her lifeline, and she used it to unpack years of unresolved issues that had fueled her mistakes. Slowly but surely, she began to heal and find her sense of self-worth. One day, out of the blue, Jenna reached out. Michael, her message read, I don't expect anything, but I'd love to meet and share where I am now. If you're open to it, let me know. Michael hesitated but ultimately agreed. They met at a small cafe that had been their favorite in the early days of their relationship. Jenna looked different, not physically but in her demeanor. She radiated a quiet confidence, a sense of peace that Michael hadn't seen in years. Thank you for agreeing to meet, Jenna began. I've spent the past year reflecting, healing, and growing. I've come to terms with my actions and how they hurt you. I want to say I'm truly sorry. Not just for the pain I caused, but for the person I became. Michael listened. His emotions a mix of nostalgia, sadness, and pride. I've done a lot of growing too, he admitted. I realize that I can't control what happens to me, but I can control how I respond. And I've found peace in letting go of anger. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, filled with honesty and vulnerability. By the end of their meeting, neither of them had illusions of returning to what they once were. Instead, they acknowledged the new people they had become. We'll always have our history, Michael said. And while it wasn't perfect, I think it's shaped us for the better. Jenna smiled through her tears. Thank you, Michael, for everything. As they parted ways, Michael felt a sense of closure he hadn't realized he needed. Jenna had been a chapter in his life, and now it was time to turn the page fully. Months later, Michael stood on a beach at sunset, hand in hand with someone new, someone who shared his values and his newfound clarity. For the first time in a long time, he felt whole. Jenna, too, found happiness on her journey, embracing the lessons she had learned and building a future she could be proud of. Thank you for joining us on the long road to redemption. This story reminds us that healing and growth are possible, even after heartbreak. Please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Would you have chosen the same path? Let us know below.